One of you said good morning. That's awesome. Good morning. That's better. I have to start with three small caveats I feel are important. Number one, if it's not obvious to you yet, I'm from the United States, from California. First and foremost, I don't know if I can speak on behalf of my countrymen, but I'm sorry for Donald Trump. I don't know what the hell is going on. I think we've lost our minds and taken this whole reality TV thing to a whole new level. So sorry about that. Don't blame me. I swear to God, I had nothing to do with it. We had a funny smart remark. Number two is that I am not an expert, nor are there such a thing. I don't believe in the word expert when it comes to startups. You are, I've never heard it put as the donkey, but that's a great story. You are the expert in your startup. We are simply here as part of an experience, part of something to help you. If something I say today makes sense and will help you, take it, use it, steal it from me, remix it. In fact, I'm going to tell you how to get it and download it for free. If it doesn't, disregard it. There are no such thing as experts in startups. Every one of them is unique. Every market's unique. Every one of you is unique. And so if anyone ever calls themselves a startup expert, run the other way. They're probably going to charge you a bunch of equity and money that you don't have for bad advice. So there are no such thing as experts. And then the final thing I'll kind of lay out today as a caveat before we get started is everything will be available gettalk.at Startup Istanbul. So you can download the loop that we'll use today. We're going to do some fun stuff today that was never been done before in the world. We're going to do a live demo from one of you lucky teams out there on designing an experiment, and hopefully you'll walk away with a better understanding of how to use rapid experimentation in your startup. So who am I? This is the first time I'm in Istanbul. How many of you first time Istanbul as well? Great. So we should all get together and party, hang out somewhere, because I don't know where I'm going, right? And so you don't know where you're going, so we could both fumble around the city. But I think there's some amazing things to see. But so far I've seen the airport, the taxi, the hotel, and here. So I'd like to go see something else. This is my first time here. I'm obviously the author of the Lean brand. I'm a principal at a company called Moves the Needle. I'm a mentor, investor, and advisor. I co-founded a startup called DeckHub. We are literally, I think, 4 weeks into that one, trying to solve the presentation nightmare of collaboration. And yes, I've worked with some really cool companies all around the world, crazy startups, really, really large behemoths, all of them trying to help them apply some of the principles that we'll talk about today in order to create value. What I'm about is value creation. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how you get there, but does it create value? And value inherently means that it's impacting somebody else's life. And I think that that's an important thing. One other little small fun caveat is I get to travel a lot around the world and meet folks just like yourselves, whether they're working in large organizations or startups or they're in I don't really work with a lot of small businesses, but in different size organizations. What encourages me and what's so amazing about that oath that you took yesterday morning is that it's true around the world. And that excites me, that this group of people in this room, there's another group of people in another room somewhere else halfway across the world that has the same ethos, the same spirit that you have. And I've come to kind of understand that spirit as entrepreneurial spirit. Right? I think it's really important. So this is, I don't know if you can kind of make it out. This is called the Devil's Punch Bowl in San Diego. That's where I'm from. It's a long 2-mile hike down into a valley. And you get here, and I don't know if you can kind of see the guy in the hat down here to get a scope of the size. But this is cliff diving, right? And so when I was younger, whether you believe it or not, I was into some extreme sports. I fell into a bad group of people, I guess you can say, that like to jump off of really high things into water. And I decided, hey, let's go do this. So we hiked down one afternoon to this little pool. And there's different sized jumps, anywhere between, I'm going to speak in feet, so you translate that to meters if you need to, but 10 feet, 20 feet. And then way up here, let's see if I can get way up there is an 85-foot jump. And I got there and I said, well, you can't take the 20-foot jump. There's an 85-foot jump. We got to do that one. So we hiked up the side of the hill, ended up at the very top of kind of the mountain. And what was unique about this was that you couldn't actually walk to the edge and look over into where you were going to jump. because it was an inverted edge. So instead, you had to kind of back up, prepare yourself, run as fast as you can, and jump. Oh, and by the way, there was a little bit of a rock that you can see bulges out before you hit the pool below. And the pool's pretty small to hit in. So as I'm hiking up the hill, I get to this jump. I look down, and there's a young man, pretty burly, not like myself, strong, good-looking, curled up in the fetal position, rocking himself, scared to death. And I could understand his fear, because you literally had to take a leap of faith in order to make it into this pool and hope that, you didn't overjump it, underjump it, slip, any of those things that would eminently mean your downfall, right? So here I am. No one's jumped. I decide I'll do it. I back up. I run as fast as I possibly can. I jump. And I've done quite a few of these jumps before, but none from this height. And there's a timing that happens in your head. When you hit the water, has anyone ever cliffed out before? What are you supposed to look like? You're supposed to cross your arms, cross your legs, make yourself as small as possible to break the surface tension in the water. So there's a rhythm. You jump, boom, boom, cross, go. I get my rhythm, the jump, boom, boom, cross, go. I don't hit water because I'm really high up. And I go, this is awesome. So I proceed to go, oh, boom, I hit the water, right? Both my legs fly up. My knees hit me in the mouth. I still have a chipped tooth from it. I can't feel my legs, which is not a good thing when I'm coming up from the water. I kind of doggy paddle over to the edge. I get out. I'm laying there. I can't really walk. I don't know what's going on. I kind of feel funky. But my feeling was that of exhilaration. Wow. I eventually regained my walking. I had to, rub Icy Hot, which is this crazy American invention, on my legs to stand up for 2 weeks. But it was an incredible thing. And I think that this is what entrepreneurial spirit means to me. It means making that leap. So many of you have already decided to make that leap into the unknown, to jump regardless of what's going to happen to you. To choose, because it's a choice, to take on creating value for somebody else. And to me, that is a noble choice and one that's to be rewarded. And I congratulate and I honor all of the startups that are in here that have made that choice because it's incredible. To me, that entrepreneurial spirit means that we're willing to jump, that we're willing to take the leap, that we're willing to learn our way down into the pool and land safely. But I also think it's important that we do that with our eyes wide open. And so there's this narrative out there that I call the startup narrative that goes something like this. How many of you first-time founders, by the way? Just curious. This is your first startup. Hold your hands up high. Can we give them a round of applause, honestly? Oh, come on. It's their first time. That's amazing. Congratulations. Congratulations for taking the leap. This is probably what you've been told a startup is. So you have an idea. You're sleeping somewhere in your house. You wake up. You go, oh, Eureka, I've got an idea. I know. I'm going to be a social network, right? I'm going to tell my grandma about it. You tell grandma, and grandma goes, oh, I like that idea. You tell your friends, she, yeah, that's good. You go, okay, I got the best idea. So what's the next thing you go out and do? You go, okay, I need to get a designer. And I need to get my logo and my website and make sure I have my business cards. And so you go out and you get your business cards and your logo. And you go, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. We're going to be the next Facebook. We're going to be the next Instagram. Of course I can do this. And then you hear some advice or read some article that says, write a business plan. So you spend like 2 months writing this long, arduous business plan that predicts everything that's going to happen, right? All of your finances, everything wonderful, and how you're going to, overtake Google as the most amazing company in the world. And then you go on stages like this, and you pitch, and you defend, and you argue, and you say, no, of course I'm right, until someone will give you money. I literally had this story happen yesterday with somebody in a mentoring session. Someone gives you a little bit of money, and you go, all right, I'm a startup, I'm successful. I already heard you say it, so I guess I can say it. Let me just say that narrative is bullshit. Okay? Straight up bullshit. How many of you have written a business plan? Be honest. Congratulations. You're fiction writers, just like myself, right? You cannot predict the future, right? Inherently, startups operate in the unknown. It's not about your logo or your business card or what you might think is your brand. And in fact, it's not about your idea at all. Ideas are a dime a dozen. In fact, I'll never sign another NDA in my entire life because I just don't think ideas are valuable. It's not about your pitch. It's not about getting funding. Instead, it's about creating value. And the truth of the matter is that a startup really is a lost cat. Dave McClure talks about it like this. He says, a startup is a company that is confused, I'd say really confused, about number one, what its product is, number two, who its customers are, and number three, how in the heck they're going to make money. You comfortable with that definition of the business that you're in? Anybody? I am, because I think it's true. You are a lost cat out in the wilderness trying to discover value, trying to find a quote-unquote home. And I think that we need to be more honest with ourselves about what we're actually doing. We don't know. In fact, it's impossible to know what exactly your product's going to be. Mark Zuckerberg, when asked early what Facebook was going to be, he said, I hope to create a really cool college directory. Literally, that was his aspiration, his vision for Facebook. And yet so many of us go, of course, Mark Zuckerberg had it all figured out from day one, what he was going to do, and we just need to have the same business plan as Mark Zuckerberg. No, he didn't know what his product was. He didn't know who his customers were at the time. He thought it was college kids, right? Had no idea what was going to happen. And he had no clue how to make money. In fact, we've kind of resented Facebook because it was never about making money until they started adding ads, and then it got a little spammy, and then there's all this other weird stuff that's going on with targeting, right? And we feel like, oh, this is not good, right? It feels weird to us because they didn't know how they're going to make money. And I want to tell you today that the most powerful kind of words that you have as a founder, and something I didn't hear enough yesterday, and in fact I don't hear enough often, is this phrase: I don't know, we're still learning about that. Guess what? That's okay. That's expected. If you don't have the answer, don't bullshit me through it. Because now you've just put something on the table that now I have to react to. You don't know it's true. You haven't learned it. You haven't proved it to yourself. You just don't know. And that's okay. Inherently, startups operate in the unknown. And so empower yourself to say, you know, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. We should probably learn about that. Or, you know what, that doesn't make any sense to me. Or, I don't know, you could be right. We should probably design an experiment to find out. So the fact that you don't know what your product is, who your customers are, or how to make money is okay. Instead, you have to hypothesize or guess about those things and then learn to find out. It's the difference between execution. There's kind of this myth, too, that it's not about your idea, it's about whoever executes correctly. Well, that may be true depending on how you define execution, but execution typically means optimization. It means we're executing upon something that we know, right? Large organizations do this really, really well. They got big because they can execute really well upon something that they know to be true. But a startup's different. A startup operates in the unknown. An innovation team in a large organization or entrepreneurship operates in the unknown, right? And so in the unknown, we have to be able to search. We have to be able to be in the wilderness and be comfortable in that wilderness, to be on top of that mountain and choosing to take those leaps of faith in order that we can learn. It's not about execution, it's actually about learning. There's a popular startup phrase out there that says, fail fast. And I hate that phrase so much because I actually have a t-shirt that crosses out the word fail and replaces it with the word learn, right? Because it's not about failure, and it's actually not about success. The currency of a startup, what propels a startup to success, and if you hear nothing else this morning, hear this, that the number one metric, the predictor of success for every startup or new venture is not ROI, it's not your idea, it's not your valuation, it's not your pitch deck. It's actually how much can you learn and how fast can you learn it. Those two things, in my experience, with thousands of innovation teams and startups around the world, propel a startup to success more so than any other metric. How fast can you learn? It means speed and pace, right? How fast can you learn? And what are you doing about those learning? It's the search. So, often we ask ourselves, can we build it? I've been there. What can I do? But the mindset of a startup is, should we build it? And how do we know what we should build? Well, truthfully, that question is never going to be answered around, a conference room. It's never going to be answered in a book, even though I like books. It's never going to be answered anywhere. It's actually going to be answered by your customers. What does the customer need? And so today I want to focus in on kind of the skill set that we need in the search. And I want it to be really interactive. I want it to be fun. I'm going to shut up pretty soon here so that we can start to work, because I think that's the most important thing that we can do with our time. But before I get there, does anyone know who these three guys are? Is this work? The three amigos. Okay, good. Right. I think that there's kind of 3 E's of entrepreneurship, and really the first one's empathy. It's shifting your view to become customer-centric, right? How do we practice empathy? How do we have the view of our customer? How do we walk in their shoes, right? The second one is experimentation. It's generating new learning, right? It's identifying the things that we need to learn, and then going out and doing something about it, learning, right? And the last one is evidence. That's making decisions based on what you actually learn. I've seen so many entrepreneurs go like, well, we learned this is what happened, but we're still going to do this because I love my idea or I love this, right? We make decisions based on the evidence. So empathy, experimentation, and evidence. And today we're really going to focus in on rapid experimentation. How many of you feel like you run experiments in your startup as a daily practice? Raise your hands high. Cool. How many of you feel like, okay, we've run a few experiments, we're not really sure that's a core capability of our team? Anybody? Okay, so we've got about 15 people have answered so far. And how many of you have never run an experiment in your startup, or maybe you've run 1 or 2 and you really want to start to figure this stuff out? Anybody? And so the rest of you that didn't answer, I'm assuming, I don't know, you're asleep? Do we need to wake up? Cool. So we're going to focus on rapid experimentation. Before we do that, I want to talk about why we experiment, and I'm going to use a funny video from Jimmy Kimmel that talks about, Ford was quoted with this, wrongfully quoted, by the way, with this quote that, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they'd tell me a faster horse, right? He actually never said that, but he gets attributed to him a lot. What it means, and usually it's used as an excuse to not talk to our customers or not run experiments. What I would say is that oftentimes if we just go up to a customer and we say, hey, look at my cool app. Do you like this? Isn't it great? Isn't it wonderful? Will you use it? If we created this wonderful thing that solved all your magical problems, would you use it? Our customers are going to be nice because they're human beings. They're going to say, sure, I guess. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. How much would you pay for it? I don't know, $50, right? Because we've put them on the spot. We've given them something, we've filled their heads with something, and we've asked them, guess what, to use their imagination and imagine what they would do with a product or with a service or with what we've put in front of them. And this is so true when it comes to the way that we want to respond to these types of what I think bad questions that we ask in our customer development. Because we get bad feedback because we're asking the wrong questions and not running real experiments. So experimentation is designed to separate, and you'll hear this time and time again, what a customer says versus what a customer does. They're 2 different things. Let me demonstrate this quickly. In the United States, coffee is very popular. I think coffee is pretty popular here. If I were to ask in the United States, what type of coffee do you like? Most respondents, out of 3, let's say you like light coffee, light roast, you like medium roast coffee, or you like rich, bold, dark roast coffee. What do you think the response would be out of the 3 the majority would like in the States? Anybody? Rich, right? Dark coffee. You're right. Most people, in fact, about 83% of people say I like dark, rich, full roast coffee. That's what I want. Okay, great. That's what they say. Now, if you go to a Starbucks and you sit in that Starbucks for 10 minutes and you watch that person order their dark, rich, bold, strong coffee and you observe what they do, what do they do next? Anybody? What? Yeah, they turn around, right? And they walk over to this little thing and they pour a bunch of milk in it, right? And then what do? They rip open a bunch of sugar packets and dump it in, stir it up and go, what do they really like? What do they do? Milky, sweet coffee, right? It's the truth. And guess who knows this? Starbucks. The last thing Starbucks sells is coffee. The first thing they sell is sugar, and the second thing they sell is milk. And this is the difference between what a customer says, what they believe, what they want to believe about themselves, and how they behave. And it's true for you too. What you say and what you do are two different things because you're a human being. It has nothing to do with you being a liar or you being deceptive or any of those things. What we think about ourselves, what we say we'll do, and what we actually do are two different things. And I'll prove it to you with this cool little video from Eyewitness News, Jimmy Kimmel. I think you'll enjoy it.
And one more thing, the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival wrapped up yesterday. It's a huge concert, goes over 2 weekends. It's out in the middle of the California desert. More than 60 bands played at Coachella this year. Some of them big bands, some of them not so big, some are up-and-coming bands. And music fans in general love knowing about bands that no one else has ever heard of. So we decided to conduct an experiment. We sent a camera crew to Coachella, and we asked people walking into the venue what they thought of a bunch of bands whose names we made up, okay? These bands are so obscure that they do not exist. Except for one name you'll hear here, we made all of them up, but that didn't stop people from saying they knew them in tonight's special Coachella edition of Eyewitness News.
One of my favorite bands this year is Dr. Shlomo and the GI Clinic.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah, they're always amazing.
Yeah, he's really good on the Flex Sig.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see them live. I think that's going to be one of the bands that's going to be really great
Definitely
live.
a highlight.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you see them when they played at Lollapalooza?
No.
No, I didn't.
I
Are
know.
you so mad?
I'm so mad.
Have you heard of Shorty Jizzle and the Plumber Cracks?
Yep.
What do you like about them? Like how raw they are?
Yeah, they're really unique, for sure.
They feel a little bit like a combination between like Bob Dylan and like a polka band.
Yeah,
Are you guys as excited as I am about the obesity epidemic?
I just like their whole style, like their whole genre is just great. They're kind of like very like innovative and they're new.
There's some smaller bands that are playing. Two Door Cinema Club.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
They're
them.
good. Yeah. Do you like their album DJ Cornmeal?
Yeah, actually, I had a radio show on a community radio station up in Canada, and I used to spin them all the time.
Oh wow, sounds
So,
like a great show.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bands this year is called Get the Out of My Pool.
Yeah, actually, that I've heard from my friends. I don't know any of their music, but I've heard from my friends that it's not something to miss, so I'm not gonna miss it.
One of my favorite things today, straight out of Williamsburg, the Chelsea Clintons.
Oh yeah, I have heard of them actually. No, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna see them or not, but I do know of their music.
What
and
did you hear about them?
They're just fun.
What's fun about the Chelsea Clintons?
I think they just give off good energy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You can just tell that they're doing it from a good place, and it's and you can just feel energy. I feel, and like there's very few acts that like give you that feeling.
Did you know that Coachella is actually the American Indian word for dumb white guy?
I love the guy from Canada. I love Canadians. I mean, I don't think I would even admit that. I used to be a DJ on public radio in Canada, and I spun this record. That's hilarious. It's not to poke, I mean, maybe it is to poke fun at these folks, but this is kind of the feedback that we get when we don't measure behavior, and instead we focus only on opinion, right? And so it's very easy to think about your app or your product or your service in the same context. When we just say, imagine a world where everything's solved for you. Would you use it? Yeah, I love it, sure. I used to use that up in Canada as a public DJ, right? And so experimentation, the use case for it is to turn those unknowns, the things we don't know that we have to be honest with, into knowns, right? To learn about them. It's to inform our decisions with data and customer insights. In the corporate world, we call the opposite of this the HIPPO. Anyone know what that means? Yeah? The highest paid person's opinion, right? The HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion. Oftentimes, that's how decisions get made in the corporations. It's also the way that decisions get made in a startup. Well, I'm the co-founder, and this is the truth, right? So let's instead inform our decisions with data and insights. And to separate what customers say versus what they actually do. So I'll give you a few examples of experiments that have been used to learn. Anyone know the story of Zappos? Zappos recently moved to Las Vegas. It's kind of cool. You drive into Las Vegas now, and all of the highways are sponsored by Zappos. Zappos wasn't a crazy disruptive story. They sold shoes online. Not crazy disruption, not crazy idea. But they started right before kind of the dot-com boom. And this is actually their website, the first version of their website. It's pretty cool. If you've never checked it out online, just Google Wayback Machine. And there's literally a website that is taking archive shots of all of these different websites that you can look at the historical reference of where they started. Oftentimes we think of a startup and we go, oh, this is so successful, and we never go back and look at where they actually started. This is the first Zappos website from 1999. The story here is pretty simple. The unknown, the biggest unknown, the riskiest thing at the time was whether or not people would buy shoes online. I know it sounds crazy now, but it was very true at the time because people would want to go on and try on the shoe and see how it looked and all those things. Obviously, I don't know why I'm talking about fashion. You'll see me throughout the entire week. This is all you'll see. Black shirt and t-shirt and jeans, that's it. It's really easy for me. But fashion, that was the biggest, riskiest assumption. People will buy shoes online. So you can imagine what you could do to build that startup. You buy a bunch of shoes, you get a warehouse, an office, you put all those things in there, you hire a web developer, you hire some designers and photographers to take photos of those. You put those photos up, you drive a bunch of traffic to the site, so on and so forth. You can imagine the cost that could be with this just to try and sell a pair of shoes online. That's one way to go. Or you can run a little concierge experiment. The concierge experiment is pretty simple. Founder literally takes his digital camera, walks down the street to the local shoe store, talks to the shoe store guy and says, hey, I want to take some photos of your shoes. I'm going to sell them for you. If they sell, I'll buy them from you, and is that okay with you? Sure. Takes some photos of shoes, walks back to his little apartment, uploads them on his computer, creates a little website, and says, here's the shoes, shows the pictures of them, right? And to see if whether or not people would buy them, right? And the minute that someone does buy a pair of shoes, guess what he does? Gets back out of his apartment, he walks down the street, he takes the money that was given to him from a customer, buys the shoes, takes them back to his house, wraps them up, and ships them to the customer, right? Costing zero in infrastructure, really very little time, other than a little bit of his time taking photos and spinning up a little website, to learn about whether or not people will show the behavior of buying a pair of shoes online. Now imagine if no one bought any pair of shoes online. Well, very little money's lost, very little time's lost, right? He's proven that people aren't ready to buy shoes online. There's no sense in building this business. Instead, he learns, oh, guess what? I probably should build this business. It makes sense because people keep on buying shoes, and so he starts to get inventory and builds the business that way, right? Very little experiment, we call it a concierge experiment, that does the service for them, buys the shoes for them, ships them for them, and builds a business on that. More modern story, Food on the Table. They actually just got acquired by the Food Network. I was bummed about it. Manuel Ramos, a friend of mine, started this in Austin. The whole thing was, hey, guess what? Shopping's difficult. I don't know how to buy ingredients that can be used in different ways, throughout the week, and it's a hassle to go shopping. And so literally the idea was, well, what if we were able to do the shopping for them? Would that be valuable? We need to go learn. Riskiest assumption is someone will allow us to shop for them. This feels like a very personal thing. So Emmanuel goes out for 3 weeks with 3 housewives and literally spends 3 weeks with them doing their grocery shopping with them, learning about their behaviors, what they actually do, learning about their recipes and all these sorts of things, and literally walking around putting things into the shopping basket with these women as an experiment to figure out whether or not they would allow him to do the shopping for them, what level of trust it would mean, right? Out of those learnings, they start to develop an app that puts out, here's what I want to make, and depending on what grocery store you're at, gives you a shopping list and breaks down the most efficient way to do it, right? Riskiest assumption being people will allow someone else to shop for them. Learning being shadowing, and you get in a concierge experiment to learn about it. And then this one, I love this one. Team we were working with at eBay doesn't look very innovative, does it? Just a Sharks hockey jersey and some tools. But they wanted to learn about predictive shopping. So what if we could predict what people would buy immediately? How do you do that? How do you simulate whether or not that would work? And more importantly, what's the assumption here? The assumption that they were making was people won't be freaked out. Can you imagine you opening up your browser right now, and you go to eBay and all of a sudden it says, hey, we knew you were looking for Barbie dolls from the 90s, and and you actually were thinking that? Wouldn't that be the craziest, creepiest thing? So they thought, oh, this could be a little creepy. Will people buy something that they're thinking about but they didn't already buy? So they went down. The Sharks had just won the Stanley Cup. They went down in San Jose. They bought this shirt, and they stood outside of the gift shop. And as people walked out without a bag, they said, hey, would you be willing to buy this shirt? Measuring the behavior and selling them a shirt, right? Will they buy the shirt? They're thinking about it. They went in there, but they didn't buy anything. Can we prove that people, when they're thinking about something, will immediately buy it if it's put in front of them, right? Very simple little easy experiment to run to learn about that, push them in the right direction. So I want to shut up and stop talking. I'm sure you want me to shut up as well. But I want to introduce you to a tool called the Rapid Experiment Loop. And we'll walk through this with one team. We'll kind of figure out how to do that. But I want to break down the anatomy of an experiment first. A lot of us say we're running experiments. We say, oh yeah, I ran this experiment. But typically, for me, the fidelity of those experiments aren't very good because, number one, it's not an experiment if we don't have a hypothesis about what's going to happen. It just isn't. Number two, if we're not documenting what's happening, right, and measuring the results, we're probably not learning. And number three, if we're not making decisions based on those experiments, then it's kind of a useless, or I would call it waste. So here are the components. We've broken them down into one sticky note per component of what I think a rapid experiment is. Number one, it's the riskiest assumption. What assumption do we need to actually learn about? Number two, what's the behavior we think will tell us about it? What's the metric we're going to shoot for? And what's the experiment we're going to run? Those three things tie together really nicely in a hypothesis. Then we run the experiment. We record the results. What do we observe about those results, the customer's behaviors? And what did we learn? What are our new insights? And then what is the decision we're going to make based on this evidence, right? So, like I said earlier, you can download this for free. I think it's get-talk@startup Istanbul. You can download it. You can use this for free. It's a great little tool to bring out the learnings and to run experiments that are high fidelity, that are able to actually inform the decisions that you make as a business, okay? So, let me give you a quick example, and then we'll get a team up here. Working with Oculus, a team that's trying to apply virtual reality into the office. So it's so sad. VR is so cool, and like this poor team has to work on building a conference room for VR, right? Like it's kind of a sad usage of VR, but so be it. And so there's some assumptions that are being made here, and the first step for this team was to go out and list all those assumptions. So what are we making? Well, people can get approval to purchase them, right? B2B, can they purchase the hardware, right? That people work on a collaborative team, that you can customize the conference room, you can upload analog tools like this into your conference room was a big assumption that customers will want. Customers will share their work with their team, all sorts of assumptions that they made. It took some time, listed them all out, prioritized them based on what was crucial versus not crucial, what was known versus unknown. And they came up with the riskiest assumption was, it doesn't seem very obvious, but will people actually sit at their desk and pick up a pair of goggles and put them on and do this at their desk or not? You can imagine all the debate about what to put in the conference room. They're literally having debates about what the scenery should be outside of the virtual reality conference room. Should it be trees or the ocean or other office buildings? All of those things are useless if someone won't pick up the goggles, put them on at work, right? Totally useless. So the riskiest assumption was people will wear the goggles. That's what we need to learn first. If that's not true, everything else falls apart. There's no sense in building the business. Make sense? Get a little nod if this is making sense for you. Okay, no one's nodding at me yet. Okay, a few nods back there, good. The rest of you, sorry, I lost you, we'll keep on moving. So, what is the behavior that will tell us this is true or false? Obviously, they need to pick up the goggles and put them on, and we hope that 60% of people that we approach with this proposition will actually do that. Right? 6 out of 10 will actually put the goggles on when we tell them with this. So, what can we do? What will the experiment actually be to get people to pick goggles up, get 6 people out of 10 to pick them up, put them on in their office building, right, and use this virtual reality conference room? Without building the conference room, by the way, without having to decide on exactly what the hardware is going to be, without writing a single line of software or code. We just need to learn about whether people will pick up the goggles, put them on in an office setting. We know they'll do it for games. We don't know they'll do it for work. So we're going to create a little prototype. We're going to take that prototype out. We're going to promise it. And in fact, we were in San Ramon, which is a bunch of corporate headquarters. Toyota software department is there. And so they decided we're going to go to Toyota and talk to a bunch of their folks that work on collaborative teams, set up a little booth with the promise that if you put these things on, you can work with your team in a better way and just measure whether or not how many people actually put them on their face at their desk. So the hypothesis is really simple. If we present the prototype, 60% of these Toyota employees will put them on. Okay? Make sense? Get tracking? Very, very simple. This is what a hypothesis is. This is how we run an experiment. Okay. So, right now, I need a volunteer. Ideally, it'd be a team of 2 or 3 folks that's willing to, I think I put on here, you're willing to share your idea and you're prepared for people to rip it apart with groupthink, right? Anybody? Volunteers to run an experiment? You guys, right here? All right, come on up. Do we have a microphone for them? Perfect. No. Tell us your name.
My name's Janti.
And your team.
And Eric Wilson.
Awesome. Nice to meet you guys. Tell us just really quickly what you're working on.
We're working on a company right now called Project X. It's a new startup for us. It is basically capturing the components, the sensory experience of life's perfect moments, whether they're small or large, and actually trying to recreate that experience in an augmented or virtual way.
Okay.
And thinking about documenting it or capturing it in a way that others could actually recreate that, whether in reality or virtual reality.
Okay. And
that's from a user point of view. Then from a customer point of view, then being advertisers, it is disruptive experiential marketing that can be used for companies that want to get their brand out in a unique way.
Okay, so you're trying, hold on to that. You're trying to create experiences and sell them to brands. Got it. Cool. Any questions for them so far? This is now your team. Your team has expanded from how many of you? Just the 2 of you?
It's the 2 of us. We've got a development team as well.
Okay, so you now
we've got
have
a marketing team as well. And we're in negotiations with companies such as Universal Music.
Okay, nice. This is now your team. Say hello to your team.
Hi, team.
Say hello, Eric.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, okay. These are now your bosses, kind of. And guys, come on over here. We're going to be using this tool. And you guys are now the tools of innovation, the tools of experimentation are, guess what? They're very complicated and rich. One is pink sticky notes for you. And you can use yellow. And here are some that's it. That's all you need. So let's help these guys. So the first thing that we want to do is if we're going to create magical VR experiences, and we're going to sell them to brands, that's essentially what you guys are working on, right?
Yes.
We're making a bunch of assumptions about this, right? So an assumption is this. It's something that's taken for granted as true without proof. It's an opinion versus a fact. It's say versus do, right? It's evidence versus say. There's a hint here. What you think is fact for your startup, what you guys think is fact right now, is probably an assumption, okay? So we want to brainstorm some of the assumptions we're making, and I want you guys to kind of track this because I want you to use it for yourselves, so follow the process so that you can apply it later. But we want to brainstorm some of the assumptions that we're making about this idea. So questions to ask. What must be true for your solution to be successful? What are they taking for granted as fact, right, that are underlying facts? And these are phrased in the customer's point of view. The customer will what? The customer will put on, obviously, the goggles. The customer will record the things, right? So let's crowdsource some assumptions that we're making. Just shout them out. Make sure that they're really loud so we can hear them. Who's got some assumptions? Shout them out. Anybody? Go, shout it out, yeah.
Somebody will want to share my experience.
Okay, somebody will document these. Someone will will want to share experience. Good.
Somebody will be embarrassed.
Somebody will be embarrassed, okay? That may or may not need to be true. Good. Just kind of tag team, you get one, you get one. Good. What else? What other assumptions are we making? And stick them up there. Just pull them off and stick them up here somewhere. We'll crouch just a second. What else? What else assumptions are we making? Yep. Okay, customer will find experiences interesting, okay? What else? Come on this side of the room. You're getting lazy over here. You're going to get fired. What assumptions are we making? The obvious one is the customer will put on the VR headset and record, right? That's pretty obvious. What else?
Can I add something to that? You made an interesting assumption immediately, is that it's just VR based.
Yep.
So it's photo based, 360 photos,
Okay.
VR and video.
Good. So that's an assumption. The customer will use 360 photo versus VR, right? What other assumptions are we making? Yep. Great one. That people will want to relive their experience, right? It was so good that, right, history, our memory tells us it was way better than it actually was, right? Exactly. Good. What else? Come on back. I'm a backsitter typically because I want an exit. If the speaker sucks, I want to be able to leave. You stayed for this long, so I haven't sucked that bad. But you got to participate. Come on, the back, yell it out. What's an assumption we're making? People will pay. Okay, that's always an assumption we're making. That's good to relive it. Come on, back of the room. I'm counting on you. Really? Assumption. Pick these guys apart. No other assumptions in the room? Great. 360 video. You can't answer it. Just write it.
Can I add something to that quickly?
Sure.
When we said that people relive it, we actually meant so in a Pokemon Go type format, you, as opposed to just reliving it online, you can go find where the customer had the experience, what the weather was like when they had the experience, the time of day, the time of year, etc., and you can go have that experience yourself. So it's not just to relive it online, it's to go relive it and go out and experience
New
it
assumption
in life.
that that's not creepy. That's an assumption that that's not creepy, that I'm like... Yes, true. So yeah, the assumption would be, one, yes, that that's not creepy, that I'm not creeped out by that. I'm a little creeped out right now. I don't know if I'd use that. Like, I don't know if I want to live somebody else's life. I like mine, right? But that's good, not creepy. And that the 360 will actually recreate it in some way, right? Yes? Okay, people will share. Did we capture that already? If we didn't, just throw it up there. We can prioritize. Let's get a couple more. Come on, use that brain. Yes, go.
Really go out and relive, like they'll physically walk and go to their places.
Yep, that they'll actually physically do it, that they won't just be voyeuristic and check it out, that they'll physically show up and do it. You got that one? Good. Let's get one more. Come on. Back of the room, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm taking mental snapshots of your faces, and I'm going to come find you. Yes? Will people spend the time to record their stuff? Right, okay, good. All right, I think we've got enough. It's good.
One more?
Yes, where are you?
One more.
Hold your hand up because I can
I'm
see
here.
you. There you are. Yay,
Okay.
back in the room.
Okay, people will start sharing documents through the VR.
People will share documents through what?
Documents.
Okay.
The live documents.
Okay, people will share it. I think we've got that one. Good. I saw another hand. Go ahead. Good one. That people will share, you're assuming that people will share good memories, but they might share the shitty ones. And no one wants to relive someone else's shitty memories. This is the spot she broke up with me, and now you can walk over and see it. This is the spot that I got food poisoning. Now you can relive it just like me. Oh, that's terrible, right? Yeah, it could be true. Okay, good. You get the idea here that if you sit with your team long enough, there's likely tons of assumptions that you're making. And let me just say something quickly about assumptions, that assumptions really are those things that we take for granted as truth that are that obvious. If I'm making a food truck, an assumption I'm making is that people will eat, right? That is an assumption. Although it's really probably lots of proof and market validation that that's true, it's still an assumption. It's worth listing out. Okay, good. So the first step for you guys when you do this at home is to brainstorm all the assumptions you're making, okay? Second step is real simple. Let's prioritize those. So in this 2x2 axis we've got going on here, one axis is things that are really crucial. This is crucial. If this is not true, we're busted. You guys might as well go home. It's not going to work. Versus not crucial, it's nice to have. Things that you absolutely know, right? That have market proof, it's known to you, versus things that are unknown, okay? So crucial versus not crucial, known versus unknown, right? If other assumptions are dependent upon the truth of one, So for example, if people don't put on the goggles, in my example, right, all the other assumptions fall apart. That's probably crucial and unknown. Make sense? So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and prioritize quickly. Based on that, just going to work with each other, and you and I are going to have a little conversation. So oftentimes when we think about assumptions as they're working away, we think about, oh, it's only for new products. But there are assumptions all throughout our businesses. Let's think about HR. When we think about hiring, there are assumptions we're making about the qualifications of the candidates. We assume that this degree or that degree means X, right? We assume that this person is going to work for this amount of salary. We assume, and I get this all the time, that our equity is worth anything, right? So we're going to offer stock options and equity in our company to attract talent, right? So HR, we're making assumptions. When it comes to marketing, we're making assumptions about the channel. We assume that we have to market this through Facebook. Or if we're a car dealership, we assume that we have to have a dealer, right? We're Tesla, we're going to have a physical dealership. We have to sell it through that channel, right? Or we're making all sorts of marketing assumptions. We're making sales assumptions. We're making all kinds of assumptions. So no matter where you are in your business, whether you're General Electric, one of the oldest and largest companies in the world, or literally you've pivoted in the last 24 hours and now you have a brand new product that you want to try and build, you're making assumptions somewhere. And one of the healthiest things you can do, and the way that I always talk about this, is that it will show up in your calendar if you prioritize it. Literally, take a block of time and put it in your calendar that says assumptions, assumptions, assumptions. Every week. Can we list all of the new assumptions that we've had in that week? Can we prioritize based on things that are crucial versus not crucial, known versus unknown? And those are the things that we need to go out that week and start to learn. Make sense? So I encourage you guys to do that. All right, guys, time's up. Tick, tick, tick. Got it somewhat there? Good, 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 good. Next step. We need to decide which one is the riskiest. So we've got all these different assumptions on the board. It sounds like, okay, 360 video is known and not crucial, versus being not creepy is pretty unknown. They don't know if they're creepy or not. I don't know yet. We'll see, right? And then people will physically do it. So the riskiest assumption typically is going to be the one that is the most crucial and the least unknown. The least known, I'm sorry. Least known, right? Most unknown. So you guys think it's people physically will actually go out and do it is the thing that you don't know yet and it's crucial for it to work? Right now.
So right now, in this group, we don't know the question to that, but we have done our own market research as well, though. And interestingly enough, I found that, so like your video showed teenagers lie, et cetera, but the majority of the people I went and asked were like I did 15 to about 22, because you're looking at the young market, but you're also looking at your future.
Okay, you're going way too meta here. On this board, this is the thing that's most crucial and unknown to you. Yes?
Yes.
Great. So this is our riskiest assumption for purposes of now. So we're going to move this, literally follow the arrow, and move it into our riskiest assumption. That's the thing that these guys need to learn about right now. Correct? Agreed? Well, I don't know. We didn't prioritize, they prioritized, but we'll just kind of go with it. Making sense? Moving on. So we need to now have a hypothesis. Hypothesis is really customer behavior, metric, experiment, right? So what's the behavior that's associated here? I got to move forward, they said. What's the behavior that we think will tell us that they'll physically do it? That they will what? Anybody?
They'll actually document it somewhere.
Okay.
They'll want to actually record it somewhere. And then will they actually use their app to upload it?
Okay. We'll leave your app out of it. The behavior would be that they record 360 an experience they're having, correct? Okay, cool. Document that. And let's do this part for them. How many people out of 10 do we think will actually today take their phone and go and record this experiment or record an experience? Anybody? Throw a number out there. Go for it. Throw it out there. 80%? You want to go with 80? You comfortable with 80?
Yeah.
Okay, 80%. Yeah. Document it. So what are you guys going to do? What's the experiment that we can run to get people to go out and record? So let's actually design the experiment. So if you go out today and record your experiment or record your experience with Startup Istanbul, right? They're going to record this amazing experience using their cell phone in some way and come and show it to them. They're going to buy you a cup of coffee, okay? Everyone's okay with that? Just put them on the hook for coffee. So let's run that experiment. So the experiment would be record. We're going to get Startup Istanbul folks to record their experience there and share it with us. You can do it however you want, with your cell phone, with their app, however you want to do it. Record the best experience you have today and come up to these guys and share it with them at the end of the day, okay? Make sense? Behavioral experiment, getting people to do that. So let's document that. Fair enough? I'm kind of shortcutting because we got to wrap it up here. Mm-hmm.
Watching what you've recorded just as you're doing it would be another experience. So it depends on how fun it is to actually record yourself and see right after you see what you've put together is an experience itself on its own.
Totally.
So the more fun it is, of course, I think people will do it more.
Totally.
The way you tell the story is, I guess, would be very important today.
Totally. No, totally right. Yes. So, is everyone clear what they're asking you to do today? Yes? To record an experience that you have today and come up, find Eric and Jont and say, here's my experience today. It doesn't have to be their app, whatever it is that you recorded, show that to them, okay? And we think that 80% of the people in this room are going to do that by the end of the day, okay? So the hypothesis is really simple. If we do X, Y% will do Z. If we ask Startup Istanbul people to record their favorite experience today, 80% of them will record it and document it. We'll actually do it, okay? You don't think it's true. I see a big shaking heads. I agree. But we got to put a stake in the ground. That is a hypothesis. That's an experiment that we can come back and measure and actually learn from instead of saying, oh, we just ran an experiment and we didn't measure anything, we didn't have a target metric. Round of applause for these guys. Go ahead and grab your seat. So I got to wrap it up here. I think we started late. Well, we're really wrapping it up. So I won't tell you what happened, but the Oculus team ran out. What I will tell you, very quickly, good job, guys. Good job. Yep. I'll close with this. Zig Ziglar said this, and I think it's really important. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving them. The more that you put stakes in the ground and choose to prioritize your learning, the more that skill set, that muscle starts to build, and the more that you're able to do this stuff in your head, run experiments that are really valuable, and use that learning to propel your startup forward. And that's the most important thing. And so if you'd like to get your own copy of this loop and use it for your team to get those experiments moving, simply go to gettalk.at/startupistanbul. Thank you guys so much. I wish I had some time for Q&A, but I'm going to be around for the rest of the week. If you want some time with me to help think through your experiments, if you want to use this together, I'm happy to do that. Come and find me. Thank you so much for having me.